Welcome to the Bleav in Hornets podcast on the Bleav Podcast Network. Sam here, Muggsy there. Muggsy, how you doing?
I'm good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited we can link up and create a podcast about the Hornets. Like, what's even happening? This is amazing.
It's time for it. I mean, especially as I say with the climate. I mean, being able to talk about basketball, especially talking about the Hornets, is a passion for me. So having the opportunity to sit here with you and collaborate and kind of talk about all, the history of the Hornets as well as what's going on currently is a blessing.
Oh, big time, big time. So I'm very excited. This is episode 1 on the Bleav Podcast Network. And because this is our first episode, we want to do a little like housekeeping and catching up. There's been a lot of Hornets news lately. And so in this episode, we're going to talk about the previous season. We're going to talk about the off season that includes the draft and free agency, and then talk about preseason, because as this episode airs, the following night is the first night of the Hornets preseason. So we'll get into all that in a second. But before we do, a friendly reminder to everyone out there, if you like what you hear, please subscribe, tell a friend, leave us a rating on whatever platform you use. Like, we're everywhere. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Luminary, TuneIn. Just search Bleav in Hornets. It'll be in the description, on the screen, all that good stuff. Help us out. Support the show.
Come on, tune in.
Yeah, don't miss out. So getting into the meat of the podcast here. So the Hornets season ended prematurely. Like we had COVID hit. They ended 1 win shy of a bubble invite, which was kind of heartbreaking because the team, I thought, played very well and competitive. Like, that team showed a lot of heart last year. It would have been really great to see them in the bubble, considering like what we saw out of guys like Tyler Hero and like just the teams that just really excelled on that stage. So Muggsy, so what are your overall thoughts on last season, the 1920 Charlotte Hornets, and what we all saw as fans?
But as you just touched on it, they were playing well, especially after the All-Star break. They was probably one of the best teams, had one of the best records after the All-Star break. And as you mentioned, they was 1 game shy of being in that bubble. And anything could have happened in the bubble. A lot of identity was created in the bubble. As you just mentioned, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler resurge. I mean, so who would have known Devontae Graham would possibly been getting a lot of play by then, considering being one of the most improved players during that time. So he was in the running for that. So, I mean, I was really pleased with the Hornets, the way they ended the season, didn't quit, didn't give up, fought extremely hard. And then again, you got a lot of guys who stepped up, who needed to step up in terms of how this franchise need to go forward.
Yes. I was telling people last year that weren't paying attention to the Hornets. Like, I know you're going to look at the record and be like, oh, no, but which is fair. But
superstars there too.
Yeah,
so
if you watch that team play, it didn't matter who they're playing against. They played up to competition. Luka Doncic, they were in his face. Giannis, in his face. They didn't back down for 1 second. And that was really rewarding as a fan, because you never left the game thinking, man, I wish our guys had their hearts in it, because that was never in play. Like, these guys gave it their all.
And that's what you wanted. And that's what these guys needed, because, again, you got to remember, they got rid of Kemba Walker, so they needed to find some sort of identity. And who was going to be that guy to step up? Devontae Graham. And like I said, he really, really stepped up and kind of showed the leadership amongst what he needed to show in terms of point play, as well as in and out the locker room. And then you had some good play from PJ Washington. No one was expected. PJ averaged 12 points in his rookie season. So that was pretty impressive. Then you had Miles. Miles Bridges now start to resurge. That second year under his belt, having a little, being comfortable, getting a little, being considered the first team rookie team. So that made a big push for him. That built his confidence. So I really was pleased. And then we can't forget about how Malik Monk was playing too. He had a little stretch there that, that warranted, some kind of a lot of attention. So a lot of things happened, and hopefully, they can continue that momentum.
Oh, big time. Yeah, he was on fire right before he got suspended. Like, he got in that starting lineup and took full advantage of it. So, like, you look at all the pieces the Hornets have and young players that they have right now and how they added to it in the offseason. So we're talking We got really lucky, jumped up in the lottery
Yeah.
to the 3rd overall pick. That was amazing. And to be in a
Yes.
position to draft LaMelo Ball 3rd overall. So, Muggsy, former point guard, you know a thing or two about the position. What are your thoughts on LaMelo in general and what he can bring to the Hornets?
I really do like the pick. You know, I know everybody was kind of hoping that Wiseman will fall into, to that slot, and because they felt like he fit more with the guys that we already have. But who can say Melo doesn't as well? LaMelo, I mean, he brings that type of excitement as a player. I mean, because of, he's been faced throughout his young career, playing overseas, getting that type of experience, now coming over here to the NBA and try to translate that into an NBA platform. But I think by his ability to see over top of his opponents, being a 6'7", 6'8" point guard, pass first, shoot second type of guy, he can really free up a lot of play for the guys. PJ Washington, Miles Bridges, even Devontae Grant and Terry Rozier. When you got shooters like that, guys who could put the ball in the basket, and Terry Rozier shot 40% behind that arc last year, so that's it creates a lot of space. So Melo brings a lot to the table, even though he's a rookie. It's going to take him some time, but hopefully not as long as they will need it. But I think just his presence, his presence that's being there, and the ambiance, I think will allow the guys to feel good about themselves.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, he has the major following, the massive following. And in any other year,
He does.
the Spectrum Center will be packed. But,
Yes.
as we all know, the season's going to start at least with an empty building, which, safety first, no arguments there.
Got to have safety first, absolutely.
But like the thought of when fans are allowed back in to see LaMelo and where this team is at that point is really appealing. Like there's a lot to look
gets
forward
me
to.
excited. It gets me excited because it brings back that up-tempo style, the style that we played back in the early, late 90s. I mean, the early 90s. That's what it is, that up-tempo. And Melo like to push the ball, that excitement. And the fans here are used to and accustomed to that type of play. So, I'm looking forward to it. And not only, we can not mention the addition to Hayward.
Yes. We'll talk about him in a second because there's a potential to have like an all 6'7" lineup on the floor at the same time that could either be amazing or disaster. I have no idea, but that's what I'm here for as a fan. Like it's gonna be It's gonna be fun no matter what.
You still got away with it for a little part. I mean,
yeah,
a portion of a season.
Yeah, for sure. Like unless you play, there's like 3 guys in the league. Like you have Jokic, you have Anthony Davis. We could put Giannis in there too, and probably Embiid of just like the bigs that are going to tear up whoever they're playing against. So you might as well, unless you have one of those guys, you might as well kind of lean into the positionless basketball effort that JB's talking about in the preseason. So a lot of potential with PJ playing the 5. We'll get into all that later. I'm getting off. Get too excited. I'm very excited to see PJ at the 5, by the way.
Yeah.
So with the draft, though, the Hornets left draft night with 3 other rookies as well: Vernon Carey Jr., Nick Richards, and Grant Riller. What do you think about just those pieces coming into the fold, either in the short term or long term?
Well, I like the pieces. I mean, we already talked about LaMelo, what he brings to the table. With Garney, he kind of he kind of fit that mold with PJ and Miles in that regards. But lefty versatility, possibly could be able to, create some type of space down there and get some comfortability of shooting that shot 15 foot on end. And then with Nick Richards, hopefully he can bring some kind of, inside presence, shot blocking. He averaged 2.1 in college. So hopefully he can be able to translate that into the NBA. And they need that. We need a defender, a middle defender, Biz Biombo, who does the best as he can by doing so, as well as Cody Zeller. But I think having a guy in the middle who can protect the rim will really benefit these guys and getting out and transition a lot earlier.
Yeah, and Riller's stats in college are amazing. Like if he was 19 and played at a major university, he would have been a first-round draft pick, like with those numbers. So I think that's a steal at that spot in the draft, and his position overall could be really useful for the club.
There's always a diamond in the rough somewhere out there, so hopefully we found it.
Yeah. And so looking at free agency, the team said goodbye to Dwayne Bacon, Ray Spalding, and Nick Batum. Bismack Biyombo is returning on a 1-year deal. And the big man, Gordon Hayward, 4 years, $120 million. What do you think about Gordon Hayward in general and what he could bring to Charlotte? I know there's a lot of, I see it as a fan and see that $120 million, like $30 million roughly for 4 years. It's a lot of money. Yeah. It's like a quarter of the cap committed to him, especially after the team just got out of large contracts with Batum specifically. So just in general, what do you think of the move? What he could bring to the Hornets? And how do you excited to see him in town?
I am excited to see him in town. I know they tried to get him, when he came from Utah before he went to Boston, and that didn't pan out. And now that, he had some years put on him and injuries as well, and folks were kind of concerned about, the Hornets giving him this type of money, at this particular time is kind of a little concerning, especially what you just alluded to, getting rid of a lot of the other contracts and trying to free up some cap space. But I think it's still, give them a little room. Nicholas Batum off the books. So that kind of give them a little flexibility. But I like the pick because that's a veteran. And they needed a veteran to come in to not kind of overshadow and the youth and kind of not allow the young guys continue that growth. They need someone to come in just to fit the mold and allow them guys to continue to perform as they have been. And he can put the ball in the basket. He can create his own shot. And he's a veteran who's been around, who has that type of understanding of what to do and what the do's and don't on and off the court. And I think these guys need somebody like that, as opposed to someone that's more dominant and more aggressive, that in-your-face type of situation. He's more of a laid-back, voiceful now because he's older in terms about what type of leadership he needs to display. But I think it fits good for them because, again, the culture here in Charlotte and with the players that's going to be around them, I think that's going to be some exciting times with Melo pushing it and he can spread the floor. So I'm looking forward to it. Again, up-tempo basketball.
Yes, for sure. Like, he's been an all-star. That's more than you can say about a lot of the guys on the team presently. Like, he has a resume. He's done it. He's been in the playoffs. Like, that matters, especially when you have such a young team. They can learn so much from him. And he seems to be, like, really willing to, like, be here and make the most of it. And that's reassuring. Like, listen to his welcome interviews and like that. Like, okay, I'm on board. I'm ready for Gordon Hayward to be here because this team needs an ace. We have a lot of good players, but no ace. Like, we've seen flashes at times, but like where's the hierarchy, right? Like, is Devontae an ace, or is he more of a second, or is he a third? Like, Gordon Hayward's arrival in the short term, at least, he's our ace, and I'm really good. I'm really good with that because it means you don't have to rely so much on PJ, Miles, Devontae because Gordon's in town.
Well, you put as that ace, putting who's at first, but I like to look at it as, collectively. These guys going to really have to do the job collectively because we don't have that one star. We don't have that guy who could just go take over the game. We have a bunch of good guys who really can complement one another, and that can translate into a lot of wins, especially with the chemistry and everybody buys into JB's philosophy, in which I think they are, and which I think they will. And that's going to be the exciting part. And what Hayward brings and what Devontae, if he can continue, the play that he had last year and bring a little that more of a out the gate type of, performance, that's what they're going to really need because, you want to get out early because you want to try to establish yourself. A lot of teams may kind of rest some of their veterans, because of starting the season up so shortly. So you want to kind of get a little cushion coming out the gate to try to, set the tone early as opposed to trying to find yourself after those 20 games, which a lot of teams normally do.
Yeah, there's very low room for error with the shortened season. And yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. Like, we really toss out any of the stereotypes or norms we're used to seeing going into the regular season because we don't know. We don't know what this looks like. And at any point, like there could be a shutdown or a player is unavailable. Like, there's so many variables at play. And it just adds more just variables and interesting wrinkles into this really continued NBA season.
Yeah, it's going to be challenging, but by no means it's going to be challenging. The team's going to have to do a great job of making sure the guys follow the protocol. Making sure they continue to follow the protocol. I think they set it up in terms of when they home and even when they on the road. They can't go out and do certain things, and that's going to be the key. How well each team manage those protocols to keep everybody safe and soundly, so we can continue to move on and have the right player and everybody, available to win game times, because it's going to be so important.
Yep. And also as a fan, it's great to have basketball back because, it's entertainment at the end of the day, and live, like investment, like television it's powerful, and it's a good escape from the bad stuff that's going on in the world. So glad the NBA is coming back. I missed you.
Yeah. I mean, get to see your favorite players, run up and down and perform. Get to root on your favorite team. So that's exciting. I'm glad that it's coming back, and I'm glad that we're able to find a way to do it and do it safely, and where you still can be able to enjoy it. And I know commissioner and the players understand the importance of it, and they want to get back to it, because eventually, we're going to have fans back in the arena. But it's just happy and grateful that we're able to play in our own arena now, as opposed to playing in the bubble.
Right. Yep. So speaking of playing in our own arena, preseason starts tomorrow as everyone's listening to this. So, you're in your experience going into the preseason, what's your mentality as a player? The season ends, you get the rest and recover. You also have time to work on your game a bit. Are you looking to go into the preseason trying to test the stuff you've been working on out? Or just trying to get acclimated to your new teammates? Like, what can you talk about just the overall mindset of an NBA player going into the preseason? Like, what are you trying to accomplish in that type of thing?
Well, a normal season will end in June, and so you have that 6 months time in terms of a preparation. But just even now, just the fact of when a player's season is over, I mean, of course, you got to let your body shut down. You got to give it that time to rest, because your body been through so much, and you got to let your body speak to you. But doing round and right, because for us, preseason or training camp started in October, so I always give myself 2 months prior into going into the season. I shut it down for the 2-3 months, and then the last 2 months before the season start, I start preparing myself, getting ready for training camp. Our training camp was, a little longer than it is today. We had a lot more. We had 8 preseason games as opposed to, the less preseason game they have now. And also we was in training camp for 2 weeks as opposed to less. So a lot of things, are a little different, but still your body go through the same process. You got to prepare the things that you're trying to, work on skill wise, trying to, seeing what we're going to try to improve coming back for the next season. So that's where the mind is. And then once you get into training camp, there's nothing that simulates training camp but training camp. So all the things that you're trying to prepare for, it never is the same once you get in training camp. And that's where, the process starts. And that's where the dreams and the goals and the aspiration with the teammates and everything take place.
Yeah, and these guys had a long time to think about it with this long layoff. And so I'm really curious Saturday night to see, like, how's everyone looking? I haven't seen these guys outside of Instagram in months. So, like, who has new tattoos? Who has a new haircut? Like, all of that is going to be part of it. So I'm very excited. Very excited. Well, I mean,
that's the trend.
What's that?
I say that's the trend. They always going to find something that's innovative that they can kind of create, especially off season.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. That's our first episode in the books. How you feel?
That was awesome. That was good. We can have some fun with this. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. So
I like that.
Yeah, next time you guys hear us, we'll be talking about some actual basketball, which is super exciting.
Yes.
But that's for next week. We gotta get to next week. So make sure you're subscribed on whatever platform you're listening to. Check us out on YouTube. That's where you can find the video here. But yeah, like this is you're listening to the Bleav in Hornets podcast and the Bleav Podcast Network. Appreciate you coming through and checking us out, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, tune in, guys. Check us out because it's going to be exciting all season long. Insight. Get smarter. Come on, get it smarter when you tune in.